Hi, I'm Shrankhla, the founder and CEO of Uma, an Ayurvedic beauty and wellness collection. This is the Uma Ayurveda podcast. Each week, I'll be having a conversation with someone I greatly admire on the topics of Ayurveda, holistic healing, spiritual well-being, and alternative health. By sharing wisdom, I hope to share a personal truth and revelation with you that as ancient as they are, Ayurveda and other healing modalities are as modern and relevant today as ever. Michelle Magid has a deep history with Ayurveda, to which she was first introduced when she was 19. Over the years, the ancient practice has informed her life and career. Today, she is a certified Ayurvedic practitioner and herbalist. As founder of the Vibrance Ayurveda, her healing practice in Portland, Oregon, she offers Ayurvedic treatments and holistic wellness support for her clients. Michelle has a thoughtful and considerate approach to explaining Ayurveda, unveiling the ways it can help to heal and support everyone's personal nuances. Michelle, it's lovely to formally be talking to you on the Uma Elements podcast. I really appreciate your making the time. How are you?
I'm doing very well today, and thank you so much for this invitation to speak with you and your audience today. It's a real honor.
Thank you. I know we worked together in the past on an insightful Uma Elements post about the doshas, and I've been dying to bring you on to get more color around that and so many other things that we're going to talk about in the podcast. So, welcome. I understand that you were first introduced to Ayurveda through meditation. After that introduction, what made you pursue a deeper study?
Yeah, so it is a deep story and actually quite a long story. So I learned to meditate when I was 19. And as you mentioned, learned about Ayurveda at that point. And it was in the 80s. And so I didn't have a lot of exposure to a lot of things of Ayurveda. It was very new coming here to the West. And so I really read as many books as I could on the subject. The first one was Perfect Health by Deepak Chopra, and followed then by Maya Tawari's A Life of Balance. And I just read and incorporated as much as I could. And I was always in search of an Ayurvedic practitioner. And about 12 years after my first exposure, I actually found a practitioner. It took that long, actually, to find a practitioner. And I was in the Bay Area, so a place that was more accessible to finding someone doing that work. And when I received the consultation and I also had body therapies, I was just blown away by all of the encompassing aspect of Ayurveda, and that it really didn't just look at my physical body, which it did, but also mental and emotional and spiritual even. And then, of course, incorporating these amazing body therapies. And through that process of my life, I had known I wanted to be a healer, but I was in the corporate world. And so I started studying many things that interested me, and that included body therapy, herbs. I became an herbalist, nutrition. I became a nutritional counselor on the side of doing my other work in corporate. Learned about essential oils and energy work. And then knowing that I wanted to, again, go into the healing field, I was exploring how to put all of those things together and was reminded about Ayurveda and that it put all of that together. And so then I knew I was ready to study more formally. And the original practitioner that I had seen had gone to a college in California and was part of the original graduating class. And so decided to pursue my studies further there. And so that was really the journey that led me to formally studying Ayurveda.
What a fascinating and riveting story. And what spoke to me was a few things within that, especially, I would say all of it spoke to me. But how everyone's starting point in their journey to Ayurveda can be so different. You could be born into it and not realize what Ayurvedic principles are, as I was, or start exploring it on one's own as you did, or dive in headlong with scholarship right away by going to an ashram or an educational institute. And I hear about stories from all walks of life, culminating in nearly always the same conclusion around the beauty of Ayurveda and all that it has offered us through wherever our starting point might be, which is so fascinating to me, and I appreciate your sharing that. It's also interesting to me that you mentioned it took you 12 years to come upon that first practitioner that you truly fell in love with, or decided to trust your body and work with. And I also want to recognize that that is okay. A lot of us think about Ayurveda and want to bring it into our life and start in many different places, but it might be a while before we meet our first practitioner. But whatever we do in the interim is also highly sacred, highly helpful. And I want to call out that we should celebrate whatever we are doing, big or small, until we get a chance to take those step leaps into a deeper journey, as it were. But knowing that you know so much about Ayurveda and have had such a deep and interesting journey into Ayurveda, Michelle, how would you define Ayurveda?
Well, that is a beautiful question. Thank you for asking that. And to me, Ayurveda is a deeply sacred and as well very practical knowledge that teaches us how to live in the rhythm with ourself, in the rhythm with nature, and to really understand how those rhythms of our own individual self and the rhythms of nature can support one another. Also, at its core, it's really about honoring and respecting ourselves and each other and nature as a whole. So it's really about this discovery of who am I and where do I live and how do I interact with this life that I'm living.
I love that definition. Makes it both profound and all encompassing, yet deeply personal, and encouraging us to use the resources that all of us have at our disposal, which is understanding oneself. I know that sometimes that can seem like lip service, because it's harder for some of us to go deeper than others, but there's comfort in the knowledge that to practice Ayurveda, the first step might be so well within reach, which is get a deeper sense of self, listen to your body, listen to what it is telling you, and honor that. So it's so practical, yet so sacred, like you so beautifully said. And staying on that, what are some of the myths that you have encountered around Ayurveda? Either something that you had heard when you first started on your journey, or things you might hear from the many clients you see?
Yes, fascinating question. Thank you. So when I think of myth, I actually think of it in two ways. And I think the way that you're actually asking the question is what might be like a false held belief of Ayurveda. But there's also the aspect of a myth in that what does it teach us? What's a like a traditional story about it? So I'd like to address both of those if I may. And the first aspect of what might be a falsely held belief, a myth of Ayurveda, and that it's because that it's ancient, that it's old, that it's crusty, that it doesn't have any application in our current life. And that could be farther from the truth. And my experience with Ayurveda, it's truly a living science, and that it continues to evolve and grow based on what we recognize and find out about ourselves as we are growing and evolving as human beings. So that's the biggest myth that I feel that I encounter, is that, well, because it's so old, how can it be applied to me? And Ayurveda really is just a way of looking at the world. It's not something, again, that's stuck, or that is one belief that's held is the only belief. It's that it's applied uniquely to each individual. So again, it's always evolving, always changing. And in relation to kind of a story around a traditional story, I admit of Ayurveda is that it really helps us in my study around it, really kind of the origins of who we are, that we are these human beings having a spiritual experience. And that has been such a gift that Ayurveda has brought to my life. And that, yes, I can look at my physicality, my physical body, my mind and emotions, but what else is present? And that is our spirit. And how is that playing a role in our life and our health?
As you were speaking, something that popped into my mind was the idea of balance between innovation, new. What is the hottest, best thing with time-tested principles? And I love that Ayurveda has always provided that beautiful backstop of time-tested, repeatedly enduring wisdom, which can be so balancing in a world that sometimes is always looking for the bigger, better, faster, newer style situation, and is a reminder of honoring that. And at the helm of a beauty and wellness company, I get asked that often. So what's absolutely new? What is something that might be life changing? And I find myself responding that it's life changing, but it isn't new. It is actually centuries old, and we're tapping into that. And when you were talking, I was just reminded of remembering to honor that time-tested wisdom and apply it with a sense of balance and moderation in our daily lives, and how profoundly grounding that can be. Digging further, I know that the concept of doshas within Ayurveda can be confusing to many, and I couldn't think of a better person than you to request a walkthrough of the doshas for our audiences.
Great. So, yeah, the doshas, oftentimes when we're thinking of them, and as I'm explaining them to my clients, there's this dichotomy that happens in that we think of the doshas as only individual, like, am I vata, am I pitta, am I kapha? And actually, all the doshas are within us and they interplay together. And so when we're thinking about who am I and what doshas am I consisting of, remembering that all the doshas are within us, and that yes, there may be certain doshas, certain qualities, certain elements that are more prominent right now in your life in a current state, and or more prominent in your natural constitution, what you were born with. But recognizing that they're always at play together. And so we can look at them in their theoried state or in their isolated state of what is vata. And vata is made up of space and air elements. And what are the qualities of vata? The qualities are that it's cold, they're dry, they're mobile, or air is mobile. There's subtle elements. So all of those qualities make up vata, but vata isn't, again, only going to interact with itself. And so recognizing that piece of it. And then the fundamental principle, I think, of vata too, each dosha has like its shining moment, or what it kind of really tells us that it does. And for vata, that is that which moves. So anything that is moving has that element of vata in it. And what really moves so much in our bodies is our mind, right? And we're living very much a mobile world. Well, maybe not so much in the current aspect. We're actually being asked to kind of settle in, which makes so much sense because we had gotten so far out of balance with the vata dosha, with all this mobility of actual physically moving our body, but also mentally moving our mind and being in the electronics. And so we know that there's this fundamental principle of nature, and that like likes like and opposites balance. And what we're really experiencing now is the request of Mother Nature to slow down and really be more in that Kapha-esque place. We're also in springtime, which is Kapha time of year. And so this time of year is about, the elements of Kapha are earth and water, and the qualities of them are stable, and there is flow to it, but there's also this heaviness, this dullness, this moving more slowly, really taking our time and building ourself, either with structure or with routine or whatever that is that's going to create a stable balance. And that's so much of what Kapha brings. And it's kind of claim to fame, per se, is that which creates that stability and creates that fluidity in our life, going with the flow and not just being a go, go, go with really no connection into grounding, into being in our body. And then we've got the Pitta dosha, which is really its claim to fame is that which transforms, and it's made up of fire with a little bit of water. And fire is really from one place to the next place. And Pitta is very much about, like I said, transformation, and what do we bring in and digest in our body. And that can be food, that can be experiences, that can be things that we want to learn and increase our intellect and knowledge. So again, all these doshas, we can look at them individually, but really encouraging my clients more to look at them in play with one another, and really determining, well, up for me today? And is this something that I want to cultivate and move with? Or am I being asked to balance this? Am I being asked to bring myself back into a place where I'm not just increasing and moving so much? And again, that's really what this time frame is asking us to do, is to kind of come back to ourself.
Just to press in a little bit further, Michelle, I'd love your advice on how our audiences can better understand their doshas.
Great question. So, as many have probably experienced, or if they have not, there's lots of quizzes out there in the world that you can take to answer certain questions that will help you to pinpoint what qualities are more present in you, and therefore elements and doshas. And I think this is a great starting point. It kind of starts to us to gain information about really looking at what is present in ourselves, and when we're asked those questions, to contemplate them. But I find that really for me, it has been observation of myself over time. Because again, we have our natural constitution, what we were born with, but we also are constantly changing, and we have a current state which may be not in quite alignment with our natural constitution. And so really looking at what is up for you today. Have I been really moving a lot? Am I busy? Am I commuting? Am I commuting, even air travel? What am I doing that really kind of brings me into that more movement state? And so really looking at how you can then bring an opposite in, knowing that those opposite qualities balance you. So it is really observation of yourself over time. And that's what I've really found for myself, and continually reading. I have found in my studies that I can never do Ayurveda 101 enough, right? And every different book is going to explain the doshas in a way that is going to expand that knowledge for me, or every quiz that I take will give me a little bit deeper understanding. But what I've also found for a lot of my clients, they've really appreciated my observation of them. So really receiving a trained, experienced practitioner's observation of you can help that, as well as any education that you might do on your own through quizzes or observation of your life, or reading.
I think that is a very helpful roadmap for many. It encourages the process both of research as well as personal discovery, as one hopefully gears up for a consultation with the right Ayurvedic physician when we get the opportunity. Speaking of physicians, Michelle, you've had the privilege of studying with some of the most respected Ayurvedic doctors. Can you tell me about what that has been like?
Well, it has been such an honor, and I have been in such appreciation and gratitude to all of my teachers, because they, each person holds this knowledge and science in their own sacred way and teaches from their perspective and knowledge base. And it has been a great gift to have such a breadth of teachers in my life. And I find that, each one again brings this flowering of different information into being into me. And so it's been a great again, respect and honor to study with them. And I find that each time I gain a little bit more and a little bit more.
Michelle, it's obvious that this journey has been so very fulfilling for you. Are there certain favorite parts or moments that stick out?
Oh, there are so many that have been really lovely on this journey for me. But in reflecting about what the kind of the best part has been, is really establishing my service of this work to others and becoming a practitioner. I learn so much from my clients, and it's been such an honor to really see them receive the information and knowledge and then apply it. Really, that's the key, is when it's applied in your life, and to see them shift and change. And sometimes those shifts and changes happen with just something very minor. Sometimes it takes longer and more needs to be done. But I've seen so many people shift sometimes pretty quickly with just a minor adjustment. And that really has been the best part of this journey for me, is really sharing this science and knowledge with others.
That sounds incredibly rewarding. And might I add, the Portland community is so fortunate to have you as such a valuable resource on Ayurveda in their midst. Have there been any challenges, and how did you navigate them?
Absolutely, challenges, right? Life is full of challenges. I don't think we can get away from challenges. And how I really view challenges is that they are opportunities for growth and change, and to really explore more about yourself. So I always welcome challenges, actually, and that I've just found in my life so much has been gained by really accepting those challenges and saying, okay, what are you here to teach me? What are you here to show me that I need to shift and change in myself? And so challenges, I believe, are, again, always going to occur. And it's really how we look at them, and then learn from them. That really is the key to having a healthy and happy life.
Makes a ton of sense. Michelle, you've seen thousands of clients as an Ayurvedic practitioner. What are some of the most common issues you hear about when people seek Ayurvedic treatments?
Mm-hmm. So there's basically two categories that I've really found that most everyone that I see has some form of, and that is digestive disturbances, and then stress related symptoms. And those stress related symptoms can be different for each person. But some can, have more worry, insomnia, have more irritability, or get depressed. But those are the two areas that I really find so many people commonly have issues with. And so I'm always working with those as a beginning place for most people, in that how can we really help you to be digesting and assimilating and eliminating your food well, and so that you feel good. Because if we aren't doing a good job of receiving our nutrients and digesting, we're not really feeling at our tip-top shape. Nor, if we don't have tools of how to manage stress, then we're just going to continue in that stress loop, and it's going to get harder and harder to do many daily things. And of course, stress also affects digestion. So it very much flow into one another. And when one is worked on, the other can start to unwind and delayer, as well as the other. So they really go hand in hand a lot.
And I think it's a fair time to call out the key distinction between treating of symptoms and eliminating slash balancing root causes, which is something I find myself constantly addressing when talking about Ayurveda, because in my life, I like to think I balance all my Ayurvedic knowledge with the stressors of modern life. Some of it might mean that I take an Advil when I'm having a particularly rough headache, or a Tums when my digestion is out of whack. But I think for me, the stopping point is the 2 days in a row, or 5 days in a row if I am needing Tums, and taking a step back and really evaluating what might be going on in my body, that these symptoms are repeatedly surfacing. And I think for a lot of people that live their lives with the stressors that we do, many of us evaluate the need for deeper treatments, or the needing for balancing these root causes in more profound way when they repeatedly show up as disruptors to our modern life, such as insomnia. One day is different from insomnia felt over a week, a month, several months and that's something that my husband contended with when we first met, and he still has bouts of it, but Ayurveda has helped him manage that insomnia in a big way. And I think that's often a prelude into deeper Ayurvedic consultations, or a general reevaluation of one's life, that repeated symptoms can indeed cause many of us. Speaking of symptoms and helping us navigate those, can you share some of the best success stories you might have had? I know that might be aspirational for many of us that might be on the fence about going out and seeking that next level of treatment in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so success stories that I've seen with my clients has really been when they have often been experiencing symptoms for a while and nothing seems to be really resolving them. And so they are seeking something that is really going to be a deeper healing process than just dealing with the symptoms. And it's when those people are really become committed to this journey of recreating themselves, like taking the deeper dive into, okay, I'm really wanting to not just take this Tums anymore, or not just take this Advil anymore. Yes, on occasion, if it's needed, fine, but that this deeper use of them, and that I'm really not getting better. So where I've seen great success is when people have said, okay, I'm really ready and willing to look at all my habits and step by step. And I think that's really, that can maybe seem a little bit overwhelming, but that's what a practitioner is there to really support someone to go through the process. And that I, as a practitioner, can say, okay, this is step number one, and then this is step number two. And that recognizing each step is going to take them closer and closer to their balanced state and deeper health. But it also, again, requires that commitment to oneself of like, I'm really ready to be healthy. I'm really ready to understand these underlying causes. And it takes time to really peel back those layers and unwind what has been built up over time. So, again, the biggest and best success stories that I've had with clients is this commitment to themselves, commitment to understanding really what was the deepest cause, and being ready to take those steps, and that it's not about a quick fix either. Those that have been most successful in the practice that I've had, and in working with them, is that this is a journey and it's not a destination. You're not looking to solve this and then you're better, but that this is a process of evolution and unwinding. And then once that you're feel like you're in a balanced state, what I love about Ayurveda too is that it's really about how to stay well and be well once that you're in that state. And so that has been where I found the most success, is really people committed to their journey of deep healing, and being willing to look at all aspects of what could be the cause.
And a couple of my personal observations to tack onto that is, when you get started on the journey, and I completely agree that it is a journey, it's by no means a quick fix. However, it is encouraging to see some of the early results that you do see, even by fixing and changing some of the habits that may not be serving us well. And it is very encouraging to get deeper into that journey when you make those shifts and changes. And second, I have found that any journey that you want to be on likely should be fun, or something that is gratifying, something that is fulfilling you on a daily basis. And Ayurveda can very much be that, in that it stops being a chore. You're so in tune with your body and with your intuition that it starts to present very, very naturally, in that you're filling your cup, you're honoring natural intention, you're honoring natural thirsts and hungers, and eating for what your body naturally needs satiated, that it's such a fun, fulfilling journey that you want to get deeper with it. So once you are more in tune and truly listening to your intuition and what your body is telling you, it doesn't feel like a necessary workout that you have to do. It just feels like I said, intuitive and natural, and going with the flow, which is very, very fun.
Agreed. I couldn't agree more. And that is where we want to get to. Absolutely. And once that, we can clear out the symptoms that are persistent, then you can become more in tune with yourself, and that you're not just being driven by what is ailing you, but being driven by what is inspiring you. It's truly, it helps to be in that space of true connection with what it is you need on every level, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually.
I know that seeing an Ayurvedic practitioner can be such a gift, but in this current environment, and even normally, sometimes it can be hard to have access to one that you can trust and get valuable counsel from. What would be some of the recommendations you might have for us to integrate into our daily lives, just to live a life of greater balance and start on our Ayurvedic journeys?
Great question. So I really encourage a lot of my clients to really become aware of what is going on for them. And that can be, you know, as you had mentioned earlier, you know, how am I digesting well? How am I feeding? What is my body really craving or asking for, rather, to feel satiated? So some of the most easy things to start to incorporate is, how am I feeding myself well? And what are the foods that I'm choosing? And am I choosing fresh foods? Am I being able to, you know, cook them and cook them with love and good spices? And do I feel really satisfied after I've eaten that meal? And then also choosing what we expose ourselves in the world as well. And am I surrounding myself with people that uplift me, that bring me joy? You know, what are my surroundings like? You know, being aware of self, and that, am I holding, you know, a positive attitude, or am I holding a negative one? And if it's a negative one, how can I shift and change that if I so choose? And really looking at, so what am I bringing into myself with my relationships, with the media, with things that I choose to bring in, other than just food, but rather than life experiences. And so I really encourage people to become aware. I think it's the first place, and it's a pretty easy place to just start observing self, and what is it that I wish to feed myself, and how do I feed myself well?
Are there resources that you have been turning to in your evolving journey with Ayurveda that you might be able to share with the audience?
Well, so I'm always inspired and turning to written books. They're pretty easy to get. There's so many of them now available, and I find that with whatever is inspiring, like I'll look at the cover, or I'll read a couple pages in, and I'll think this can really provide some valuable resource. So I'm a great believer and encourager of getting books and reading up on what it is that you're looking for, and especially in Ayurveda. But I also find that some of the things that have worked best for me have been the conversations with other people. And for me specifically, like my mentor. And so I know that when I get to talk to somebody about what's going on for me, or I have questions, I get so much more insight often than just reading a book. Although the book can provide so much great resource and information, I find the two of those together really have provided me with the most inspirational resource.
Are there any books in particular that you love and recommend?
It's an older book, but it's one of the first books that I got, and truly one of my favorites, and that is by Maya Tawari, A Life of Balance. I think it's a beautiful book. It's very well, it's got some illustrations in it, not pictures, but illustrations. There's some great recipes in there as well. So that is one of my all-time favorites.
Thank you for sharing that. That one does come up a lot. Michelle, have you found any aspects of Ayurveda hard to practice?
I find that I have a really busy life, and a family, and a business. So what I have found that it's not always easy is to cook a fresh meal every day. So I will do my best to eat the freshest food, but it may not be something that I get to cook for myself. So one of the things that Ayurveda really recommends is to not to have leftovers. And I found that for myself to be pretty difficult because, again, of my busy lifestyle, I will cook something and use it for often a couple of meals. So that's what I found to be the most difficult, is to cook the freshest meals daily. But I do really strive to not eat anything over or older than 24 hours. So if I made it for lunch the day before, that I eat it by lunch the next day.
And thank you for calling that out and sharing that, because because it is helpful to keep in mind that even the best of us, with the most deep Ayurvedic knowledge, can sometimes have to navigate the guidance of Ayurveda within the context of the modern world. And the reason why I call that out is because my belief is that it is at bottom a science of moderation. So the principles that you can bring in and work with your life beautifully and naturally are things that we should focus on. And there might be a few things that may not work quite so seamlessly, but it is best not to stress out about them, because Ayurveda, going back to its basic principles, is about moderation and balance. It is not it's not binding as a prescription, as it were. So it shouldn't feel like a chore, or that you are making errors in your journey if there are some principles that may not fit into your lifestyle quite there and then. Michelle, are there any additional things you'd like to share with our listeners and audiences before I let you go?
Yes, I would say that if Ayurveda interests you, then take a first step, and recognize that each step will lead you to the next step and to the next step. And that this isn't about shifting yourself overnight and or quickly, but that each little thing that we do to bring ourselves closer to health and wellness and balance is going to be worthwhile effort. And that little by little, slowly, then we will unwind what has been going on for us, and to really recognize that that we can do this step by step, and really making sure not to get overwhelmed. And like you've said, it is a science of moderation. And I say that all the time, everything is in moderation, including moderations. Sometimes we need to celebrate, but it's that over celebration, or those things that we do on a consistent basis, can either bring us health or bring us and lead us into imbalanced or diseases. So little by little, just take the first step and recognize that each time you add something new, it is bringing you closer to that state of balanced health and wellness on every level.
Wise words, Michelle. Thank you so much for spending time with us, unpacking so many beautiful and sometimes dense things about Ayurveda. I look forward to staying in touch and hopefully bringing more of your wisdom to our audiences. I know they're going to eat it up.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I really appreciated speaking with you and to your audience. Many blessings.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like more information on our guests and the additional references during our conversation, please visit us at umaoils.com. That is U-M as in Mary, AOILS.com. And please subscribe to the Uma Ayurveda podcast and share. See you next time.